Welcome to the Grow Ortho podcast. I am one of your hosts, Zach Dykes, joined by Dr. Brice Gilliam, 2024's 40 Under 40, America's top young dentist, co-host of the TV show Making Modern, available on HBO Max, and owner and operator of Elevation Orthodontics. Dr. Brice, welcome to the show.
What's up, my man? How are you doing?
I'm excited because today we are talking about Unreasonable Hospitality. I told you about this book a couple of months ago. I was like, Dr. Brice, you need to read this book. You're going to love it. And now you've read it, and I wanted to just pick your brain on it and everything. Just give me kind of a, before we dive in, we need to kind of set the table, if you will, Unreasonable Hospitality, on what that means. Can you give me kind of a definition of what unreasonable hospitality is?
Yeah, it's going above and beyond expectations in ways that make people feel deeply seen and valued and cared for, right? It's not about the big grand gestures. It's about more about intentional, personalized moments that really create that emotional connection, right? In orthodontics, that means that we want to make every patient a VIP patient, not just clinically, but emotionally as well.
Everybody needs to go check out Unreasonable Hospitality. Okay? It's going to utterly change your mindset. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And the thing that I think is so cool about this book, it has something that's totally different than the industry that I currently work in. However, there's so many things that you can pull and put into play that will work for your industry as well.
Even like being in like the recording side of things, I've learned little things like, oh, what's your favorite drink? What do you like to drink? Oh, do you have a favorite candy or something? Just little things where it's like, and it's sitting there ready for them when they walk in. It's just those little things, and having that like in your notes and everything for your clinical assistants or your TC when people come in. It's like, oh, this is what they like. They are Taylor Swift fans or whatever, but this is a book I think everybody should read. This by Will Guidara, and he was the guy that took 11 Madison Park from not even on the top food, restaurants in the world to #1. And the journey is so good on how that happened, because it wasn't just about making the food better. It was about making the experience better. Because I think that's one thing that we can think about orthodontists. Everybody, the standard is you leave with straight teeth.
Yep. And we've kind of come past just making straight teeth, right? It's all about transforming lives and making the patient feel like they've been seen and felt and cared for, and it's a lot more to it than just creating that smile.
They want to be seen. People in this day and age with AI, with everybody being on the internet, when they actually go in person somewhere, they want to be seen. They want to be known. And I think that is a huge thing that we need to take into consideration, is like, how can we put this in practice in our practice? So give me an example of some unreasonable hospitality in orthodontics, Dr. Brice.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback on your Taylor Swift thing. Let's say that you have a patient that is a big Swiftie, right? She loves Taylor Swift. Just one little thing that you could do, you could have Taylor Swift playing in the background at their appointment. Or if you want to, you could put a Taylor Swift sticker on their clear aligner case. And it's just those small gestures that have a big impact, that say, we see you and we're here for you, and we're wanting to make this an experience the whole entire way.
Like, if that happened, because I am a Swiftie, I love Taylor Swift. 1989 was my favorite album for a really long time. Then I finally gave Reputation a fair shake, because when it first came out, I was like, I'm not about this, But one thing that I loved in the book was when a new person, a new, eater, whatever you want to call them, someone come into the restaurant, this is a big place. You have to make reservations. You have to intentionally be doing this. And what they would do was very interesting. They would look up the person and find out about them, because guess what? Most people, 9 out of 10, I would say even 9.8 out of 10 people have some sort of social media presence, and you can learn a lot. And this is going the extra mile. Okay. I know everybody's busy, but you can learn a lot by saying, okay, well, I've got Dr. Brice Gilliam coming in. What does Dr. Brice love? Well, I could go look at his social media, and I can learn so much about what makes Dr. Brice tick, the things, because people are going to curate their profiles. Okay. Only the things they really love are going to be there.
That's right. And then especially when you first start out, you have a lot of extra time. This is a good practice to start with, right? You can start looking up each patient that schedules, and then you can get to know them a little bit more, so you can have that tailored approach for them right when they first come in. I think that's a really great point.
Just to go back to the book, it's like when people come up to the hostess, they'd be like, they didn't say, "Oh, what's your name?" They knew exactly who it was. They had a picture of the person. "Oh, welcome, Dr. Brice. So glad that you're here. How is X been? How was the Bahamas?" Yeah. And they were like, I went to the Bahamas. Like, it's those little things. How would you react if someone did that to you, Dr. Brice?
Well, first of all, it'd be so unexpected that you would be excited. It would get your emotions going. You'd be like, "Oh my gosh, these people have taken the time to get to know me before I'm even a client or before I'm even a patient," right? So you're already thinking these people care about you more. I think I would love it. At first, I might be weirded out just a little bit, like, "Whoa, how did they know that?" But then once you got past that, you'd be like, "Oh, this is amazing."
Yeah, that first little, like, but if you lean into it, and it's not a transactional thing. So I want to jump in. How can we get the staff to buy into Unreasonable Hospitality?
Yeah, you have to build a culture around this. We train monthly. We do role plays. And then we encourage everyone to think beyond the script, right? The idea is that hospitality has to become part of your team's DNA. And the more that you can practice situational things, the better you'll be when they come out.
This is something, I'll just give an example from the book. A lot of places, their coffee service kind of is just basic. They don't have somebody, and they saw this within their restaurant, Madison 11 Madison Park, that most places just had, just kind of basic coffee, but they had someone on their staff that was a coffee fanatic. Like, finding that person on your team that is whatever it is, that are really intentional about, insert this thing within your practice. And they empowered that person by making them over the coffee program. And their passion came out. So when someone ordered coffee, it wasn't just an afterthought. It was a main thought, because one person took that on.
That's right. And if you can find your team's strength and things that they're passionate about, and you can kind of put them in that direction, you will start to see that pays off and pays for itself over and over again. So if you know someone that loves social media or loves, making the patient experience incredible, put that person in front of that. Let them do that, and it will show huge results.
And that goes to empowering your team. There are social media sleuths out there. Okay, we've all done it. Okay, we've scrolled through someone's social media and we found out more about them than we ever would have known from a conversation. So I think giving permission to people to actually go into their role even deeper. Can you talk a little bit about that, Dr. Brice?
Yeah, you have to give them permission first. So once you give them permission, that's giving them the autonomy to make sure that they can make these small, patient-focused decisions without even checking in. This gives them the freedom to turn that routine visit into something that is more of a wow experience. And I think that that's really important because, like, for instance, we do this thing where if the assistant or teammate notices that a person's having a bad day, or maybe they're having a great day and they need to celebrate something, we have these $5 gift cards that we can just pass out whenever they need to. They have autonomy to make those decisions, and it's not a big deal. It's not a huge cost to us, but it really means something to the patient.
And if you know that they really love, let's say, Starbucks, and you give them a $5 Starbucks card, it might only get them a small or whatever, but that's so much more than they would have gotten just going to the orthodontist. Like, that is a experience right there.
And I think that that's one thing that you have to remember about this. It does not mean that you have to pay $1 million or you have to buy them Starbucks for life or anything. It's just these small little gestures that really create an amazing experience.
That brings to mind, there was this experiment. This was during like World War II. They were trying to train pigeons to drop bombs or whatever. It's kind of crazy, but they train them like Pavlovian, where it's like, if you hit this button, you'll get 3 pellets. Well, they found out that when they did that, they would always give 3 pellets, and the pigeon would become disinterested after a while because it would get its fill and then it would run, go away and do pigeon things. Then they, mistakenly, they were like, oh, we don't have enough pigeon food. So they started doing variables to, sometimes they would get 1, sometimes they would get 3. And it was out of necessity because they didn't have enough food. But the pigeons, instead of becoming disinterested, they started pecking the button more and more and more because they didn't know what was going to happen. Is it going to be 3? Is it going to be 1? Is it going to be nothing? Let me poke the button again. And when it showed that variable reinforcement, and the same thing is going on in your practice, they don't know what, like, are they going to get a gift card? But that's not why they're coming, but it's a nice little gesture that might happen if they go in there.
Yeah, I think that going back to the book, I mean, it's like the hot dog, right? So,
Yes.
And I'm sure you'll talk about this later because the hot dog story is a great story. But the premise of it is there was a group that was visiting New York, and they were doing a food tour. And the food tour, they've got to do all the things that they wanted to except have a street hot dog. And so he overheard that, or one of the teammates overheard that. So they ran downstairs and they bought this hot dog from the street, and brought it back up and plated it and said, we wanted to make sure that your culinary experience was complete. So it's just that little thing. It didn't cost them a lot of money, but it was something that was going to be memorable to those people forever.
With that restaurant, it was their one time there, but they're going to be able to tell that story forever. How can we, it's like, think about this in your practice. How can you make someone's day? And yes, it could be a smile. It could be a conversation. It could be the hot dog. It could be, oh man, yeah, I'm really dragging today. Get them a coffee. It's just those little things. But how can we make hospitality consistent? I know I talked about variable rates and everything, but consistent from patient to patient where they feel like they are getting served so well.
Yeah, you have to use your patient management software or your systems. And really what I want you to focus in on doing is starting to note things that the patients like or dislike, or things that are interesting or hobbies in their lives. That will give you one step ahead of the game. But then I want you to have a consistent approach to how you do this. And that may mean greeting them by name, offering them something personal, creating a gesture that turns that spontaneity into a system that you can repeat over and over again.
This just popped to my head. If someone, like, my full name is Zachariah. No one calls me Zachariah unless I'm in a like medical office. Someone's like Zachariah, and I'm like, oh, my name's Zach. 9 times out of 10, they're still going to call me Zachariah because it's on my chart. But if you realize that, it's like, oh yeah, my name is Ashley, but I go by AJ. Like, it's those little things, those preferences, and listening while you're talking to people, and like making a quick note. I know it's very, very busy, but if you make that quick note and there's another, clinical assistant the next time that's servicing them because that one's sick or whatever, they know about the patient. It's those little things like that.
Yep. And those little things go a long way, and everyone loves to hear their name. So if you get their name right, they'll already be one step ahead.
It's the sweetest sound to anyone's ear is their name.
Yep.
What is the role of the orthodontist in all of this, Dr. Brice?
Well, you set the tone. If I'm warm, my team mirrors that. If I'm rushed, they mirror that, kind of tighten up. Hospitality starts at the top, and then your actions will shape your entire culture. This is something that I think the DSOs and the bigger companies miss because they're hiring people to fill roles, but they don't have that true leadership that starts from that personalized care. So, smaller orthodontists, this is where you can really thrive.
It's taking that time, and it's knowing that you're way more agile because you're able to shift and change and get feedback. So let's talk about practical tips, because I feel like I'm poking the bear a little bit there. What's one easy way to start, even if you're a large practice or a smaller, more agile practice? What's one way to start?
Yeah, I think you have to create a signature gesture. This is something that would be a custom welcome kit with a handwritten note. It's simple, affordable, and memorable. Make it something personalized to what you guys do. You don't do what your neighbor's doing. Do something that's special to you guys and unique to you, and that will be much more memorable.
I got a letter from Luke. This is probably 2 years ago. Little note saying, thank you for all that you're doing. You're crushing it. I still have that note, and every now and then when I need a little boost or whatever, I look at that, because handwritten notes are so few and far between. Dr. Brice, when's the last time you got a handwritten letter?
That's I got one for my birthday, but other than that, so that's what I try to do for my wife as well, right? I try to strategically or sporadically or just give her those handwritten notes because they're a big deal. They mean something. They mean that you've taken the most, I guess, most important resource you have, your time, and used it to write something by hand. It's a big deal.
Goes back to that. Okay, I know that they like this, this, and this. I know their personality, and you bring that into the note. It's just going that one step further than saying, thank you for choosing Elevation Orthodontics. We're so glad that you're a part of our family.
Yep. No personality, no face,
Yeah.
no emotion involved. Yep, I'm with you.
Yeah, and find a person in your office that has that personality and good handwriting.
It's very important.
So, how can hospitality actually help your marketing?
So this is a thing that I think most people forget, but you need to document and share it. A patient's smile with a cupcake or a thank you card shows the future patients that what they can expect. These are stories that build trust. These are stories that build loyalty. These are the things that you want to be known for.
The hospitality thing is going to be shared more readily than, oh, my smile looks better. Like, yeah, you went through that, but that small gesture, the hot dog story, I'm sure those people, those diners, talk about that hot dog more than they talked about the foie gras, anything else that was served at that restaurant that night. It was the hot dog that was talked about.
Yeah, I guarantee. I guarantee that hot dog was more influential and talked about and shared with all their friends and family more than any of the other things.
So, how do we track what's working?
Well, you've got to pay attention to feedback, whether that's through reviews or surveys or direct comments. And then when you figure out which gestures people really like, lean into those, double down on them. You want to make sure that what you're doing is effective. And once you find that it is effective, do more of that.
There's a thing in the book, I can't remember the exact name that they had for it, but they literally had an office, like they had someone over like the wow factor or whatever, the thing, the little zhuzh, if you will. And they had ideas upon ideas. They were always iterating. And their whole job was to help people have those moments within the restaurant. It could be, oh, well, someone's celebrating an anniversary. It could be they have the wine that they had at their wedding. It might be some expensive thing, but they would make sure to have that wine at their, at the restaurant for them to celebrate their anniversary. It's just little things. It could be small, big, whatever. But again, it's when you really get down to it, it is showing people that they are seen and that they're cared for. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. It's just that they're actually being seen. And that's what we really want when it's the end of the day.
Yeah. And I think that goes, you hit on something else that was important in the book. He implored his team to really think outside the box, to think and bring ideas to the forefront. They tried a bunch of stuff. I remember at one point they were trying things that didn't necessarily work, but some of the other things that they tried really stuck. But there was no idea that was too dumb or too far-fetched. It was all like, let's all work together to be creative and come up with some really fun and personalized ideas to make these experiences amazing.
I think one of the biggest things that stood out to me in the book, when they were chasing being number one, they were going out to other restaurants that were on the list, the other 49, because they were number 50. They're at the very bottom of the list. But hey, they were in the top 50 restaurants in the world, but that wasn't good enough, you know? And I think when you think about your practice, being good enough is good enough, but how can we be great? How can we push it to that next level? And they would go to the other 49 restaurants and they experienced the whole thing. But Will and Danny was the chef there. What they wanted to focus on was not what they did well, but what they sucked at.
Yeah.
And I think that's something, you know, look at your practice and be honest with yourself and, you know, ask your team, hey, what do we suck at?
Yeah, you have to know your weaknesses. I mean, you have to be honest with yourself. Like, I kind of have this self-reflection a lot and try to figure out where I'm weak and where I can become a little bit stronger. And I ask my wife a lot. I say, I want you to be honest with me. Tell me where my shortcomings are. Let me know. And then that gives me the ability to fix it, right? Or to try to pivot and do something a little bit different to maybe be a little bit better. But you can't be offended if someone tells you the truth about your weaknesses, especially when you ask.
Yeah, and it could be our answer rate's bad. You know, people aren't getting through on the phones.
Yep. And it could be simple. It's something that doesn't have to do with your personality at all. It's just your system's maybe a little flawed. And it's okay. You can fix them and make them better.
I love that you're asking, you know, asking Brooke, hey, what are my flaws? You know, and it's coming from a loving place because she loves you and she wants to see you better, and you're doing it because you want to make her life better. And it's the same thing with your patients. It's like, hey, how can we be better? Taking those reviews, taking those suggestions, you know, not everything you got to take to heart. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I'd like this for free. Well, that's not realistic.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are some final thoughts on unreasonable hospitality within the orthodontic practice?
If you can be unreasonable about how you care for people, the smiles that you create and how you make people feel, then that's the real magic in the orthodontic field.
I love that we can make people feel seen and heard in anything that we do. And I highly suggest anyone that's listening, I would suggest go listen to the audiobook of Unreasonable Hospitality.
Yeah, I actually like the audiobook. I think that you're hearing it from his perspective, and it just feel, you can hear the emotion in his voice, and you can also feel the disappointment and it's really great. It's a good book. It's a good book, and that you can use some of the things to apply to your orthodontic practice and really, really crush it.
Mark Twain said it best. The secret of getting ahead is getting started. So get out there and start making the changes you want to see in your practice right now. Go be unreasonable. Go be hospitable. This has been Zach.
And I'm Dr. Brice.
Thank you for listening to the Grow Ortho Podcast.
Smile big, guys.